Hey everybody, this video is called Here's Some Guidance, and tonight we're going to continue our pass-through study in the book of Leviticus. We're looking at chapter 6, where we're going to look at the instructions for the priest. So let's look at verses 1 through 6 starting out. It says, "And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, If a person sins and commits a trespass against the Lord by lying to his neighbor about what was delivered to him for safekeeping, or about a pledge, or about a robbery, or if he has extorted from his neighbor, or if he has found what was lost and lies concerning it, and swears falsely, if any one of these things that a man may do in which he sins, then it shall be, because he has sinned and is guilty, that he shall restore what he has stolen, or the things which he has extorted, or what was delivered to him for safekeeping, or the lost thing which he found, or all that about which he had sworn falsely, he shall restore its full value, add 1/5 more to it, and give it to whomever it belongs on the day of the trespass offering. And he shall bring his trespass offering to the Lord, a ram without blemish from the flock, with your valuation as a trespass offering to the priest." So in Psalm 51 verse 4, it tells us that all sins are against God, and there is direct sins against God, and there is indirect sins against God involving people. And these violations listed illustrate that principle. And if someone was guilty of theft, it was not enough for the sacrifices to cover the guilt of the sin before God. And restitution had to settle the account with the victim or of the fraud. And the thief had to add 20% to what was stolen as a penalty. And restitution had to be made the same day as the trespass offering. And it showed that one could not get right with God without also making the wrong right with the man. And in verse 6, the priest served as an appraiser to give the approximate value to the goods in question here. In verse 7, it says, "So the priest shall make atonement for him before the Lord, and he shall be forgiven for any one of these things that he may have done in which he trespasses." So we see assurance here for the guilty conscience, as the sinner could depend on this promise, and they could know that their sin was covered before the Lord. And any of these sins above could be cleansed through atoning sacrifice, though the cleansing was not perfect until Jesus came and Jesus accomplished the perfect work on the cross. In verse 8 through 13 it says, "Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Command Aaron and his sons, saying, This is the law of the burnt offering. The burnt offering shall be on the hearth upon the altar all night until morning, and the fire of the altar shall keep burning on it. And the priest shall put on his linen garment, and his linen trousers he shall put on his body, and take up the ashes of the burnt offering which the fire has consumed on the altar. And he shall put them beside the altar. Then he shall take off his garments, put on other garments, and carry the ashes outside the camp to a clean place. And the fire on the altar shall be kept burning on it, it shall not be put out. And the priest shall burn wood on it every morning, and lay the burnt offering in order on it. And he shall burn on it the fat of the peace offerings. A fire shall always be burning on the altar, it shall never go out." So from this point on, through the very next chapter, you're going to see the instructions for the priests that are given with special attention to the priest's portion of the sacrifice. And we see the burnt offering here, which spoke of consecration. And the animal had to remain upon the altar in a slow burn for a long period of time, and it was to be tended by the priest. And the fire continued burning continually, as it was impossible to perfectly meet the perfect sacrifice. And God was ready to receive confession and the restitution through their sacrifice, though. In verse 14 through 23, "This is the law of the grain offering. The sons of Aaron shall offer it on the altar before the Lord. He shall take from it his handful of the fine flour of the grain offering with its oil and with the frankincense which is on the grain offering, and shall burn it on the altar for a sweet aroma as a memorial to the Lord. And the remainder of it Aaron and his sons shall eat with unleavened bread, and it shall be eaten in a holy place. In the court of the tabernacle of meeting they shall eat it. It shall not be baked with leaven. I have given it as their portion of my offerings made by fire. It is most holy, like the sin offering and the trespass offering. All the males among the children of Aaron may eat it. It shall be a statute forever in your generations concerning the offerings made by fire to the Lord. Everyone who touches them must be holy. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, This is the offering of Aaron and his sons, which they shall offer to the Lord, beginning on the day which he anointed 1/10 of the ephah of fine flour as a daily grain offering, half of it in the morning and half of it at night. It shall be made in a pan with oil, and when it is mixed, you shall bring it in. The baked pieces of the grain offering you shall offer for a sweet aroma to the Lord. The priest among his sons, who is anointed in his place, shall offer it. It is a statute forever to the Lord. It shall be wholly burned, for every grain offering for the priest shall be wholly burned. It shall not be eaten. So we see here in these verses the grain offering. And a portion of the offering belonged to the priests, as their family and them would eat it as a holy gift. And it was only to be eaten in the courtyard of the tabernacle. And Aaron, as high priest, was to make a daily grain offering at morning and night on behalf of the priestly family. And the priestly offering was to be given completely with nothing left over. In verse 24 through 30, wrapping up the chapter, it says, Also the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron and to his sons, saying, This is the law of the sin offering. In the place where the burnt offering is killed, the sin offering shall be killed before the Lord. It is most holy. The priest who offers it for sin shall eat it. In a holy place it shall be eaten in a court of the tabernacle of meeting. Everyone who touches its flesh must be holy, and when its blood is sprinkled on any garment, you shall wash that upon which it is sprinkled in a holy place. But the earthen vessel in which it is boiled shall be broken, and if it is boiled in a bronze pot, it shall be both scored and rinsed in water. All the males among the priests may eat it. It is most holy, but no sin offering from which any of the blood is brought into the tabernacle of meeting to make atonement in a holy place, the holy place, shall be eaten. It shall be burned in the fire. So we see the sin offering covered here in these verses, and a portion of the sin offering was left over, and it was to be given over to the priest. And anything that was touched by the sin offering or its blood had to be cleansed in a special manner, because the sacrificial victim was thought to be infected with the sin of the one who brought the offering. And any portion of the sin offering made for a national atonement could not be eaten. And the whole animal had to be burned before the Lord. And only portions of the sin offering was made on behalf of an individual could be eaten. And to wrap up, we looked at many instances performing the guilt offering when a person sinned against a neighbor by sins such as lying or theft. And we see the certainty of forgiveness when the sacrifice is made. And as we go through the book of Leviticus, it seems like a very complicated system for forgiveness. But in the New Testament, in the New Covenant, we can be certain in God's forgiveness. And let's look at 1 John chapter 1 and verse 9. It says, If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. So we must, as Christians, confess our sins to God, and we must believe that God is faithful and just, and that he will forgive us, and that he is faithful to clean us. And we looked at the specific instructions for the priest regarding the offerings, such as the burnt offerings, the grain offerings, and the sin offerings. And that's a wrap up for this video. We'll see you Thursday night as we go over chapter 10, where we're going to look at further the instructions to the priests. So I hope you have a great rest of your night. God bless.